It's peach season. What are we going to do with all those peaches? Well, we're going to talk about a few ways to preserve our peaches today. Hi everyone, welcome back to Sweet Bailey Acres. Today I would love to talk with all of you about how to preserve your peaches. And our peach trees didn't do very well this year because I wasn't able to spray in the spring. But I did get a whole bunch of peaches from our local farmers market, and I believe they were brought in from Washington. So I have all these peaches and I want to preserve them, and I want to make sure that we have a variety of things. Also, my husband and I, we went and did some pottery about 3 weeks ago, and it was a date night. We hadn't had a date night in forever. And we did some pottery, and check this out, guys. So I made a cup. This says Sweet Bailey Acres. It has I drew our pig on it for our logo. And my husband made me this really cool pig to put my spoons and stuff in. Isn't it cute? Anyway. All right, let's talk peaches. There's also different types of peaches, and making things either easier or a little harder for you. So these ones have what's called a free stone or non-cling peach. And what that means is when I cut this peach in half, let me cut another one. When I cut this peach in half and I twist it, it pulls away from the seed. If it is a non-free stone or a cling peach, which those are typically early in the season when they grow, they will not freely at all come from the seed. So you can see the seed looks pretty clean. Oops, about dropped it. There's not a whole bunch of pulp around it. If you were removing the seed from a cling or non-free stone peach, it would have a lot of the pulp attached to it. So you can choose either. I like the free stone just because I think they're easier to use. Some people say that the cling ones or the non-free stone ones are sweeter, and so better for making like peach butter or making just freezing and canning in general. But I really like the freestone ones. I think they're easier to use. It helps me save time, and so I got the freestone. And this time of year, this is what you'll get anyway, so I don't have the option of getting the other ones. The other thing you need to remember when it comes to peaches is they can turn brown. So when you cut them and you're working on peeling the skins off or you're working on slicing them, they can turn brown, and that happens from an enzyme called polyphenol oxides. And that polyphenol oxide is just highly reactive to oxygen. And so when it hits oxygen, what happens is it causes it to turn brown. So there's ways that you can keep from doing that. So a lot of times, so my other peaches, I have more peaches than just what's here. I had cut them up, skinned them, and I put them in a bath of citric acid and water. Or you can do lemon juice and water. And what I do is I actually just have this big, huge bag of citric acid because I do a lot of our preserving. One day I will do the cutting and skinning or chopping up of things, and then the next day I do the canning or the freezing, because it just breaks it up for me so that way I have time. Because a lot of times I have other things I'm doing during the day and I can't get it all done in the same day. So the citric acid helps me to preserve that color that's needed for the fruits to stay really fresh and to not turn brown, or even the vegetables. So the citric acid, I just take and I put about a tablespoon. I forgot to grab the tablespoon, so I'm just going to kind of dump it in. But I do a tablespoon, and I just kind of swoosh it around. Okay, and then this big bowl is going to be for my peaches. And then I'm doing another small bowl because when I peel off those skins, I want to be able to save them so I can make peach butter. So I really like peach butter. I remember my grandma, first time I ever made peach butter, my grandma taught me how to make the peach butter and do the skins, and her and I worked so good together and trying to get that done, and she taught me so much that day on how to do peach butter. And peach butter is so good. I like it better than apple butter. Okay, so get your water ready. So whether you're dehydrating, freezing, or canning, especially if you plan to do them on separate days, it's important that you either have the citric water, acid water, or lemon juice water to keep them preserved. And honestly, you really kind of should do it even if you're doing them the same day, because if you have a bunch to process, these are going to turn brown before I finish the batch. There's a few different ways that you can preserve your peaches. You can can them, freeze them, dehydrate them, and you can also do a bunch of different things within those three things. So the initial is, do you want to can, do you want to freeze, do you want to dehydrate? And then once you've decided if you want to can, freeze, or dehydrate, you then branch off from there of different things that you can do. So for example, with canning, you can can your peaches in slices like I'm doing here today, or you can can them in halves. You can can them in the water or natural fruit juices. You can can them in honey and sugar for a natural syrup. Let's see what else. You can also make peach butter. You can also maybe cut it up, add some spices, and make peaches for peach pie for later. Or you can just, like I said, make the peaches plain and just their water and natural juices. And then that way you can always have so many more options later of what you want to do with them. Let's see, some other ways, the freezing. You can do freezing. You can freeze them all together in one so that we can thaw them out and use them for different things later, like a pie. What I prefer to do is when I'm freezing, I will do just like I do with the potatoes, or it's the same thing I do with peppers and onions. I cut them, I lay them out, I let them get slightly frozen, and then I put them into a baggie. So that way later, when I want to actually use them, they're not all clumped and stuck together. And I can take them easily out of the bag and use them for smoothies or just to eat frozen peaches. So that's a really good way to preserve your peaches. You can dehydrate the peaches in slices. You can leave the skin on or take the skin off. You can take your peaches and puree them, and then add a little bit of, and add some sugar to it, and make kind of like a fruit leather. That way you can cut it up and you can make your own little candies, or you can do kind of like some fruit roll-ups for your kids. So you can dehydrate many different ways also. And so go through and peel all of your peaches. You're peeling your peaches. There's a few different ways you can peel your peaches. You can either do a blanching method where you put them down in the hot water, and then when you pull them out of the hot water, you just basically take the skins off like you would tomatoes. So that's a really quick way of doing it. I do the cutting off just because I want some of the pulp from the peach and the skins for making peach butter. But there's also, I'll do it this way too. So some of it I'll cut off where I get down into the pulp a little bit. And then you can also do where you just grab a hold of it. And honestly, peaches, you just grab a hold of the skin, pull it on a knife, and then just pull the skin. And you can see how it actually pulls right off of the peach without getting a lot of the pulp. Now, if you're wanting most of your peach pulp to go for your canning or your freezing or your dehydrating, this is a good way to do it also. Or you can do like me, where I kind of dig in a little bit because I want that peach pulp to be as part of my peach butter. So try a few different ways, see what you prefer the best, because you never know. You might like it more than one way, depending on what you're making. Peaches can be canned, like I said, either in their natural juice or water, or they can be done as a syrup where you add sugar. I don't like to add the extra sugar, so I do ours in just water, because I really don't want a lot of the extra sugar for my family. But if you do, and the syrups are great, go for it. You can do a light syrup, you can do a heavy syrup, and both taste great. Let's see, the other thing, when you're doing canning, if you are canning peaches and you're doing it in the they're natural juices or fruit juice or water, you have to make sure that you hot pack your peaches. The reason why we put them and do the hot packing method is because peaches and other fruits have a lot of oxygen that's built inside of their structure. And you want to try and remove as much of that oxygen before you can as possible, because otherwise you may have more bubbles in your jar. It'll cause the fruits during processing as well as after to float to the top, which can cause them to turn brown, especially if they're being exposed to the air, if there is any air inside of the jar after canning. So it can cause them to turn brown, which is what you've been trying to avoid. And so it's important that you go ahead and you hot pack them to remove as much of that oxygen as possible that's inside of the peach. If you have not seen Canning 101 or Canning 102, I recommend that you go and see that after this video. Also, the time and the way in which you process is the same whether you use the hot water bath method or the steam canning method. When you're freezing your peaches, I like to take a piece of wax paper and I do the slick side up where the peaches are going to be. And I put it on my pan because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this pan in the freezer and I'm going to spread them out on it so that way they don't stick together. Now if you plan on using them all at once, feel free to put them in a bag because they can freeze together. You can thaw out the bag all at the same time. I like to do them laid out individually and freeze them, get them kind of frozen, and then put them into a bag. And then that way, if I just want to take out 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 at a time and not use the whole bag, they're not all clumped and stuck together. So a good way to do that is just take your peaches. Oh, before I do that, so I don't know if you guys have ever seen the inside of a peach seed, but one of them broke open when I was peeling my peaches a little bit ago. And so this was the outside that we were taking out of peach. And then inside there is a little bitty seed. Isn't that cute? So if you've never seen the inside of this, this is not actually the seed. The seed is in the middle. All right, well, let's go back to freezing. So freezing, what I do is I take a ladle or a spoon that has some holes in it and I scoop them up out of that citric acid water. And I let as much of the water drain off as I can. And you could even pat them dry if you wanted to with a paper towel. Usually will help. And I just spread them out over this wax paper. And I spread them out because I don't want them sticking together. And what I'll do is I will stick this whole pan in the freezer and I will do like an instant freeze button on my freezer, so that way they freeze a little bit quicker. And you don't have to get them froze all the way solid, but at least get a good kind of freeze on the outside of them before you take them out of the freezer. And then I just kind of use a spatula and just kind of scrape around here and then just scoop them into a gallon size freezer bag, or you can do a quart size. And then what I do is I then lay that bag flat in the freezer, and so that way it freezes nice and flat, so that way I can stack them up in the freezer. So just keep doing this until you're ready to get them into the freezer, and then I'll come back and meet with you when I put them in the freezer. Thanks for hanging out with me, everyone. If you could, you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and share our videos. That's the best way you can help us out here and get more videos, as well as get videos quickly. And we'll see you next time.